Happy Father's Day if you're joining us here live on the stream. Remember, if you're part of the podcast, we are live Sunday nights at 9 p.m. with the good doctor, Dr. Rany Jazayerli, one of the co-founders of Baseball Prospectus. I'm Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. Happy Father's Day. Here ended the joy, right? As we now begin to talk Royals baseball and talk about what is now a certifiably struggling ball club. Who's most responsible for this mess? Rany's words. Should anyone be held accountable? Rany's words, but I'm not disagreeing with anything that's said there. We will talk about that. Is it time to address the elephant in the room? You know what I'm talking about. We're talking about a little Salvador Perez. Is it time? Are we getting to where something needs to be done on that front? Cole Ragans is out. Are there any bright spots on offense? What's the latest thoughts on Jack Caglianone? Are there any levers left to pull to try to salvage this season? I know Cameron was pulled pretty quick today. We'll talk about that. It's all coming your way right here, right now on the Kauffman Corner Podcast.
You're listening to the Kauffman Corner Podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kauffman Corner is hosted by Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro. Rany is a co-founder of Baseball Prospectus, author of Rany on the Royals, and a former columnist for Grantland, The Ringer, and The Athletic. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kauffman Corner is proudly brought to you by David Starnes Allstate Insurance, covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff as well. Motorcycle, boat, ATV, you name it, get with Dave and he'll have you covered. Give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. And now, here are your hosts, Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it. Off and running here on a Sunday night. And Rany, doom and gloom, right? Like you get swept by the A's after losing a series to the White Sox. Being swept by the Yankees is almost tolerable. That's wedged in between those two poor performances. I mean, who's most responsible?
Wasn't a good week, Soren. Wasn't a good week. 0-6 at home. But on the other side, Cole Ragans, the Royals' best pitcher and one of the best pitchers they've developed this century, is on the injured list. And the two most dreaded words in the English language were used with regards to his injury: rotator cuff. So not a good week. Their worst week in a long time. And that's saying something. Yeah, we need to get real here, right? We need to start accepting the reality that this might not be their season. And if it's not, it's because their offense is worse than we thought it would be at the beginning of the year. It's exactly what we were worried about, but even worse maybe than our worst case scenario. It's the worst offense in the American League by runs scored. It's showing no signs of getting better. They have tried everything reasonable to improve it internally in terms of promoting players. They got the gift of Jack Caglianone being ready on a earlier than expected timetable, and were able to insert him into the lineup and got a short-term boost. And here we are, and they just scored 11 runs in 6 games at home, which is worse, which is better than it sounds, actually, or better than it actually was, because 6 of those 11 runs that they scored this week were scored in the 9th inning of 2 games where they were losing 6-0 and 6-1 going to the 9th. More than half of their runs. Take those out at 5.
We were at the game Friday night, and my wife had to remind me that they got to 4. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right." Yeah, it's like because you'd already thrown in the towel on the game. Like it's like that's how much like you are mentally out of the idea of them winning the game has been.
Yeah. It was a really bad week. And yeah, the Yankees, fine. Okay, it's the Yankees. They got swept by the Yankees in Yankee Stadium earlier this year, and it was all doom and gloom. And pretty soon they were on a 16 of 18 stretch. So I wasn't, Friday morning I wasn't feeling doom and gloom. But the Athletics, we can't call them the Oakland Athletics anymore. Can't even call them the Sacramento Athletics. They are the first team in Major League history to go by a single team name because they can't afford a second name. And they can't afford a major league team either because they have, the worst pitching staff, in the sport, or certainly in the American League, and I think maybe in the sport, right? They came into this series having allowed 419 runs in 70 games. Okay, almost exactly 6 runs per game. That's like 1999 Coors Field level pitching incompetence. That is not something you should be seeing in 2025 with a ball that apparently is even less juiced than it's been in recent years. There was a recent analysis in The Athletic that showed the seams on the ball this year maybe a tiny bit higher than it's been in previous years. The ball's traveling about 4 feet. A home run distance ball is traveling at 4 feet less this year than last year. Of course, if you watch Royals games, you'd think it's traveling about 30 feet shorter. So that's not affecting the A's pitching staff, though. 6 runs a game. They gave up 6 runs in 3 games to the Royals. They came into this series having, I think, lost 13 consecutive road games, and then they won 3 consecutive road games. The Royals fired one of the final bullets in the gun, which was the players-only meeting they had after yesterday's game. Right, the players got together. They shut the clubhouse down. Reporters weren't allowed in for half an hour. Was it Buddy Bell who said that winners win and losers meet?
But I think it's been said a number of times. I'm going to say it later tonight here in Kansas City.
Multiple Royals managers probably.
Yeah, it's one of the questions tonight for Sunday Sound Off on 41, and so I will utter that phrase. Yeah. Winners win.
Well, right, and look, but I get it. Like I'm like, you know what? Maybe winners win and losers meet, but I'd rather the losers meet than not meet after a game like that, or after a 5-game stretch like that. Even more going back to the White Sox series.
Curtis might be right. That might have been a Fitzy thing. I did a lot of post games, a lot of pre and post with Al Fitzmaurice. It might have been a Fitzy thing. By the way, shout out to the Police Athletic League real quick. Naming the field after Al Fitzmaurice. That's coming up this week. So a quick shout out, tip of the cap to one of our favorites, Al Fitzmaurice, one of the best guys, great analyst, a great baseball guy, but just great person. And happy Father's Day in memory of Al Fitzmaurice, who had a great family. So I'm Curtis. I'm really glad you brought up Fitzy's name because that reminded me of that fact. But I think Fitzy is the one. And I could just see him. Yeah, in my experience, winners win and losers meet.
And they met, and they lost again. And they lost again for the same reasons they lose pretty much every game. Is their offense, didn't do squat, and so every mistake they make outside the offense is magnified. I know we're going to talk about did Matt Quatraro pull Noah Cameron too soon? I mean, I've seen a lot of frustration with Q this week, and we were going to talk about who's responsible, but like they are not hitting. And if it's the manager's job to make them hit, then yeah, blame the manager. But I think when you think about why the hitters aren't hitting, that's not the first person that you hold accountable. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, I think that is. I mean, like I kind of have a rule of thumb. Like I don't think you start at the manager, right? Like, is there anybody in front of? First of all, I would ask, what strategic move has he done that's wrong? And I would ask, what obvious lineup blunder is he performing? I mean, I don't see it. And so I'm kind of the opinion, like there's like, it's not JG Piccolo. We had some questions. We were looking at some of the questions that were coming in for TV tonight. And it was like, is this the team rebelling against management? Is this the team? So I'm like, nobody goes out and tries to suck. Right? Like, do you see a team full of guys with 5? The only guy with guaranteed years of good money is Bobby Witt Jr. I don't think Bobby Witt Jr. is tanking. Okay. So like that kind of thing is just not happening. So
I was going to say that's what you hear, that when the rare occasions you see like a rebellion in baseball, it's veterans, right? Veterans who've already made their money, you've got contract, etc. You know, they know the way the game is played at the major league level. And these guys are, I mean, why would you tank your career if you're 26 years old and never made big money in the game and you're trying to get to arbitration? Like, no, come on, people. People lose their minds sometimes. They're not hitting. Why they're not hitting, we could talk about that. But this is not a management issue. This is, I mean, the management, nobody's complaining about management in terms of the quality of the pitching overall. Like, the pitching is great. So you're saying that Quintero is an incredible manager of pitchers, but like all the hitters hate him? Like, that just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the pitching's very good. There's no $100 million pitcher on here, right? And yet the pitching's been great. The bullpen, it's not a super expensive staff, but it does well. And that's the most important part of a manager's job, is how he manages and handles the pitching staff, not overworking it, using it correctly. Those numbers are there. Like, hitters got to hit. First and foremost, it's on them as individuals. That's why they met. I'm with you. Are they going to solve anything with this meeting? No, but it is, it is a necessary step to say, listen, guys, we're all in it. It's got to happen. It's got to be with us, and clear the air. And for the hitters to be like, dude, you pitchers are not, like, we're letting you down and we have to do better. But then you come around to the fact that they're not hitting. And look, if somebody wants to tell me Alex Immelt absolutely isn't the problem, I'm happy to listen. Then tell me who is, though. Right. And we've had a number of people, and I put it up here, that are like, he's entering Cal Eldred stage. He has been there for a while. Right. Mm-hmm. But last year they did hit very well until Vinny Pasquantino went down. I think there are a number of forces at play here. First of all, 2 years ago, when they lost 106 games, and you and I had them winning, 77 games, I think, and they lost 106. So they won 56 games. They weren't that bad. Right. Last year they won 86. They probably weren't that good, right? There was an ebb and flow to everything that's going on here with this club. But this year they're kind of, probably, a little better than last year, but playing down, which is something that clubs do. So, as an organization progresses and goes up, it's not a straight line. It's like the stock market. It kind of curves and weaves and bobs, and injuries happen, and, prospects take too long to start, and, it curves its way up. This is potentially just the ebb and flow of progression with the baseball organization. I will point out, they haven't hit it all, and they can still see 500. They're not buried. Now, listen, if it doesn't turn around, we are going to start talking about how bad can it get. And I do think it is critical to say the A's series, I said this on Friday on the radio show, Randy, this is a big series for this club. I'm not going to tell you it's must win because there's way too many games going. But first of all, baseball it's having kind of a unique year in the sense that there are 6 teams that are just utter ass. Okay. And then everybody else is not that bad. And a couple of teams aren't really good. Right. But it is a different kind of year right now. And so there aren't a ton of just like layover games. The A's were supposed to be 3 of those, right? Where the other team just lays down and dies. If you punch them in the mouth, they're not going to get up. Okay. And the Royals just dropped 3 games there. And you could live with getting swept at the hands of the Yankees if you'd taken 2 out of 3 from the White Sox and then you'd swept the A's. Instead, they've dropped 2 out of 3 to the White Sox. That's what makes it so damaging. You can, last year they were, what would he say, about 450, 460 win percentage against the winning teams?
That sounds about right.
And then they beat the hell out of the losing teams. Really, they beat the hell out of the White Sox and did pretty good against the rest of the losing teams.
Which is fine. Like, that's
just fine. It adds up.
That's how you get to being one of the 12 best teams in the sport.
Yeah, you'd like it to be more like 500 against the winning teams and then really beat all the losing teams. But, that was a formula that added up. This is why they're having a meeting, because I guarantee you this club had circled, well, we got the White Sox and A's, and then we're going to make a statement against the Yankees in between. We're going to pick up a lot of games here. Here we go, guys. They just fell flat on their face. I guarantee you this is where they thought they would start to go. I also guarantee you that some guys like, okay, we got a real bat in the lineup. We got some pop in the lineup. Jack Caglianone's not doing it. So, like, to your point, we'll get to what other levers they can pull. Like, Barry Bonds ain't walking through that door, fellas. Like, what are we going to do here? So, for me, like, is it J.J. Piccolo we're blaming? I'm not. Is it Matt Quatraro? I'm not. Is it the economics of baseball? Yes, that's ever present when you're a small market team. They can't just buy their way past everything. So there's always an element of that. But you also know it's always there. So that's a cop-out. So I'm not using that one. But it's real, right? It's real. And I'm left with the hitting coach. And I am curious why this conversation, if this conversation is not being had at the highest reaches, I'm not sure why it's not.
I completely agree with you. And I say that as someone who just a week or two on this show said, look, I don't generally favor the idea of changing coaches mid-season, right? And yet I'm not sure the Royals have much choice in this regard. Like, let's take a step back here. Like you said, despite everything, the Royals are 3 games out of a playoff spot, right? So, like, it is absolutely realistic if you are the Royals to say, we still can make the playoffs. Like, it is too early to just cash out on the season, in particular because what cashing out means in terms of how many tradable commodities you have, there aren't that many for a team that's fairly competitive, because most of your best players are guys who either you want to build around long term, or you might have limited value on the market. Seth Lugo is the one guy that obviously has quite a bit of value, but even him, there's some question. His strikeout rates have come down a little bit this year. He had the minor injury, so you can have that conversation in a month. I don't think you should be having that conversation in mid-June. And also, I mean, we haven't discussed it in a month or two, but like, there is still stadium talks ongoing, right? Like, we have to acknowledge the reality of the situation, which is that PR for the Kansas City Royals organization matters more at this particular moment than it has for most of their existence, because they are in very steep negotiations to get a stadium. They have to give it every opportunity they have to win this season. Fine. And that's fine. I don't think they should be they should be sellers yet. But the offense, and the other thing I want to say is the offense may not be quite as bad as it looks, in part because it wasn't as good as it looked last year. And I think that one of the mistakes when we talk about, does JJ Picollo deserve blame? I don't think you deserve blame for what's going on right now, but if you want to blame him for anything, it's for thinking that Alex Zumwalt and the state of hitting development in this organization was acceptable going into this winter. You and I obviously talked up Kevin Seitzer a lot on this show, but the point was yes, we love Kevin Seitzer. The Mariners have the second best offense by OPS plus in the American League this year. I don't know how many times he has to just keep like proving himself before people accept this guy. This guy's really good. But part of the reason for the discussion was we had.
Did they hang on? Can I just say Friday night I was there in the Alex Gordon Hall of Fame induction ceremony was there. He mentioned Kevin Seitzer, and I just sat there like, I mean,
yeah,
here you all are. You're sitting here watching this guy go in. He was a bust. He was a disaster. And then he went and basically said, help me, Obi-Wan. You're my only hope. And spent an offseason working with Kevin Seitzer, and now he's in the Royals Hall of Fame. Yeah. I don't know what
100%. The year 2011, the year that Gordon became Alex Gordon, I'm not even sure that was Kevin Seitzer's biggest miracle that year. I believe that was the year Jeff Francoeur had a legitimately good season. That's
Cabrera.
Melky, at least there may have been some
a little bit. Melky was right. Like, they traded what was it, Jonathan Sanchez for Melky Cabrera. I mean, it wasn't like they were, they traded. It was like
I think they traded Melky for Jonathan Sanchez, if I recall. But then it turned out that Melky, right? But remember, Melky had the PED bus later. So I'm just saying, like, I'm leaving him out because if you want to pin that on chemicals, fine. The point is, 2/3 of the only outfield in Major League history, that outfield, Melky, Alex Gordon, Jeff Francoeur, all 3 guys had 40 doubles in his season. For a guy that was fired because they didn't hit for power. I'm sorry, doubles are a form of power. Maybe it's not the ultimate form of power, but this team would do great if they just hit doubles. Like they are, among everything else. Where are they? They're like 11th in the American League in doubles, along with dead last in home runs. But here's the thing I want to point out: the Royals this year, believe it or not, are hitting better, and not by a small margin, with nobody on base than they did last year. Last year, the Royals had a 665 OPS with no one on base. They had 226 batting average, 283 on base, 383 slug. This year, they're at 703, 261, 310, 393. The difference is entirely with men on base and especially with runners in scoring position. Last year, they went from 665 with no one on base to 794. I mean, almost an 800 OPS with runners in scoring position. That is elite, right? Which obviously is valuable in its own right, but it's triply valuable because it comes in the most important situations, right? And that's why, despite not ranking the top half of the American League in categories like OBP or slug, they were sixth in the American League in runs scored, right? They outperformed their component numbers in terms of how many runs they scored because they bunched their base runners together. This year, they dropped from that 703 OPS with nobody on base to 591 with runners in scoring position. They're hitting 222, 283, 11. So, yes, part of the problem this year is they've been, let's call it, unlucky with runners in scoring position, not hitting as well as they do in normal situations. And so their runs scored, like they're dead last in the American League at runs scored, even though they have a much better OPS than the White Sox, as an example. So fine, you want to say they're unlucky? I actually think that's absolutely true. The problem is the reason why they were acceptable last year, sixth in the American League in runs scored, that's perfectly fine, was because they were lucky with runners in scoring position, not because they were good. And I think that the state of hitting in the organization last offseason got a pass in part because they looked at the runs they scored and said, yeah, the offense is fine. We're doing a good job of teaching hitting, and not looking at the fact that they actually were just lucky with runners in scoring position, not that they had some innate skill. Because again, if hitting with runners in scoring position was a skill, explain to me why they were second or third in the entire major leagues last year in that category and like dead last this year, right? Like that's the whole point, is that if it were a skill, it would be repeatable. They're hitting about the same, if not better, with nobody on base. So if it was a skill, they would be doing the same with runners in scoring position. They are not. It was luck last year, bad luck this year, but they should have addressed it in the offseason. And now, because they didn't, now we have a very difficult decision to make, which is, do you change horses midstream? And I'm not saying it's going to help, but if only to send a message to the organization that these results are not acceptable, at some point you have to wonder, is that what they're going to do? Because I don't think it will hurt. It won't help, but it won't hurt. And you fired every other bullet. What is left to do?
Yeah, and I think that's where it is. I mean, you are just sending the message, because I don't know you can expect anyone to come in to get it turned around. I don't see that happening. If you've got problems with your insurance, call our friends, David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. David Starnes Allstate Insurance, serving the Kansas City area and all throughout the Midwest. With David Starnes Allstate, it's not just about fender benders. Beyond traditional safeguards, enjoy perks like roadside assistance for unexpected breakdowns, transportation expense coverage when your car is in the shop, auto replacement protection to keep you on the road in style, and much more. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, let's talk about Salvador Perez, the elephant in the room. He has hit a couple of home runs. He had a little stretch there where he's like 5 for 16 with a couple of home runs and a single. Or a couple of home runs. Did he have one double? Or were the rest singles? I can't remember. I think it was 3 singles and 2 home runs. Anyway, what's the answer? I mean, are we hypercritical? Is the problem just that, yes, clearly not what he's been, but bat him 8th or 9th, like most catchers hit, and we wouldn't be making this big a deal out of it, right? Like, okay, yes, the decline has begun, but if he's hitting 8 or 9, he's not that bad. I looked it up by guys who had played at least half their Here, I'll give you. I'll bring it back up here. Guys who had played at least played at least, it was 30 games. I can't remember what criteria I put in anyway. No, I had played at least 40 games and 50% of their games at catcher, 50% or more at catcher. And Salvador Perez ranks 28th in OPS. And there are 34 players that qualify. Right? But are his slash lines really that bad? They are for batting cleanup. Right? They are for batting up, yes. But if he were just if defense first catcher, batting 8th or 9th, would we be making this big a deal? Or, yes, we still have a problem?
I think we'd still have a problem because even if he's not hitting, you can't call him a defense first catcher because the defense is as much a problem as the offense now, right? Like, this is my concern with him. Okay, so there's actually two problems. One is he is not the catcher he used to be behind the plate. He still can throw. And one of the things we've not talked about this on the show, but like, if there's the single best skill the Royals have relative to every other team in baseball is
throwing out runners.
Is preventing stolen bases. Not so much throwing them up, because nobody tries. I believe they've allowed. Did they give up a stolen base today? They've given up 16 steals all season. Yeah, they Fermin threw out a guy at third. 16 steals. Every other team in baseball, I think, has given up more than twice as many steals. Freddie's given up 10 and thrown out 4. Salvy's actually thrown out. He's allowed 6 steals and thrown out 6. They've caught almost exactly the same number of innings. So on the throwing side, he's great. He's allowed 22 wild pitches. Freddie's allowed 6. That's a big deal. There was the game earlier this year, the 1-0 loss, just like 10 days ago, with Noah Cameron on the mound, where the only run scored because Salvy, a ball got away, and then Salvy had like a brain fart and just kind of stopped on the way to picking up the ball because he assumed the runner on third was going to score, but the runner on third had stopped because he was justifiably worried he'd be thrown out, and could have been thrown out had Salvy not just given up on the play. And they lost 1-0. So, and the defensive metrics this year have shown that he is significantly worse than Freddie Fermin. So part of it is just defensively, he's not giving you much when he catches. But the other problem is he's only catching half the time. And the other half, he's either a first baseman or a DH, where you can't be a defense first DH. I suppose you can be a defensive first baseman, but like, he's not hitting at all for those positions. Offensively, he's about the same as Freddie Fermin, but Freddie Fermin has value because when he plays, he catches, and when he catches well. And Salvy just doesn't. And I'm not saying, he should, be released or be benched or anything like that, but he should stop playing 100% of the time. Like, can we come up with a situation where he catches a third of the time and then he plays first base or DH, a third of the time against lefties? Let's say against lefties, he plays and Freddie Fermin catches. He plays first base or DH. He catches. Then against right-handers, you see about 2/3 of the time, he catches half the time, and the other half the time, he just sits and he rests.
Yes.
And let's find out if he actually does better when he's not playing every single day, because the grind, look, we treat him like he's superhuman, and we've taken that for granted for the better part of 14 years. But I don't think it's a coincidence that the year he came back from a missed year from Tommy John surgery, he hit better than he's ever hit in his entire life. Like, the man is human. And it's precisely because I like Salvy so much and want him to succeed, and I don't like seeing him in this state. I'd like to see what would happen if he played 70% of the time. I think it would improve his performance, in addition to giving the Royals a chance to put somebody else in the lineup at DH, literally, like where you could choose anybody, against right-handed pitchers who are tough on right-handed hitters, rather than have the shell of Salvador Perez out there.
Well, and you also, I joked around last week, I forget which game it was, where the ball fell in between the Royals catcher and their first baseman like 3 times. The problem was it was in right field, right? Because Jack Caglianone was playing right and Salvador Perez was playing first base. So are we serious about defense or not? Like, I get it if we're going to go, we're going to give Jack Caglianone a shot, but I don't get it with Salvador Perez. And watching him try to go back on the ball, I'm like, he has no hope of getting this. And so I'm with you. He catches or he sits. maybe there's a rare day where you DH him, but you have 2 first basemen on the roster. Stop. I just don't know what. And if it's like, well, it was about swing playing, well, it's about matchups, well, it's about history. Okay, but you're playing that then all the time, and it's not working. He's not what he used to be. And so where I will be critical of Matt Quatraro, to see our first point, it's like if Matt Quatraro or whoever's standing in front of somebody telling Salvy, you're not going to play as much. You're on the downslope of your career. We'll be happy to trade you someplace where you can play every day. It's called a bad team. And if that's where you want to go, we'll send you. We'll eat the money. We'll try to get a fringy prospect, and you can go. But I need you to be a captain and a leader and on board and bought in and be the best cheerleader in the clubhouse when you're not playing. And that's going to be at least half the time. Like that has to happen. How many games do you have to keep waiting for him to get hot?
The only thing I will say in defense of Matt Quatraro is because it's Salvador Perez, the captain.
I got it.
You can't do that without the full backing of the front office. Like it's not just Quatraro. Like I think the Royals need to be blamed, but like if he does that, he needs to know going in. J.J. Piccolo's behind him. John Sherman even is behind. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that. I don't think Salvador Perez is the one player where if like the manager gets into a spat with a player, not just the fans, but even in the clubhouse, people might look at that and it will rebound.
And that's why I said, I don't care who it is. Is it Matt Quatraro? Is it J.J. Piccolo? Because he's been there longer and goes back. Somebody's got to walk down and have this conversation with Salvador Perez.
Right. Ideally, it's both of them together with multiple people and say, look, for the sake of the organization, we're asking you to do the most difficult thing it is to do as a leader, which is to say for the good of the team, I need to play less. And again, frame it as we need you to rest more. We want you to be at your best. Not that you are being punished, but more we are trying to put you in a position to succeed. And the way to do that is to do it 80% of the time.
And it's got to be coming because you haven't traded any of your catchers that are on the way. So one way or another, it's got to be coming. I will caution, though, Freddie Fermin played a lot last year, right? And we were all excited. And down the stretch, Freddie Fermin started not hitting, right? So I will caution people that was an issue, right? That doesn't just mean it's all going to be perfect because you make this adjustment. Like you need to be ready that might not work either. When you do that, like you don't want to overwork Freddie Fermin. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about Cole Ragans being out. We'll get into whether or not there's any bright spots in the offense after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. David Starnes Allstate Insurance. Elevate your coverage, elevate your confidence, and drive worry-free. Covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff, as well as your motorcycle, boat, ATV, and you name it. Get with Dave, and he'll get you covered. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Randy, you called it some of the most scary words you can hear, and that is that the strained rotator cuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like level of concern there is what?
Again, not good. But obviously with rotator cuffs, it is not a binary situation, with the ulnar collateral ligament. It's torn or it's not. I mean, there are grades of the sprain, grade 1, 2, 3, yes, but like if the ligament is sprained, it's torn on some level. It may be enough, small enough to heal. It may be nowadays where it's ripped off, but you can reattach it with the brace, which is 6 to 9 months out, or it's the full Tommy John. With rotator cuffs, it could just be inflammation. Right now, like the best thing we're hearing right now is that are not talking about surgery of any type. Like if he can just rehab this, even if it's 2 or 3 months, at this point, I'm not even like worried about will Cole Ragans pitch again this year. I just want to know the next time he's on the mound that he will be at 100%, right? Because
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, like, best case scenario right now seems to be he might be back like the end of August. And I'm like, is that 1 month? Like, if you told me right now he will not be back this year, but he'll be back in spring training 100%, I would take that right now because the benefit of 6 weeks. Okay, having postseason Cole Ragans would be great. He was their best pitcher in the rotation last year in the playoffs. I believe his start was the only game they beat the Yankees in. So I would love to have that, but aside from that, it's not worth. This is a guy who's under contract for 4 more years after this. He is, in my mind, still their best pitcher. Yes, his ERA this year was over 5. His FIP was under 3. Like he was pitching in maybe bad luck, or maybe there were some arm concerns already. I mean, obviously he had the groin issue. And the worry is that they pushed him back too soon from the groin, and that led to a cascade injury where he was putting into a strain on the arm. The Royals, with the last 10, 15 years with this training staff, I've had very, very few beefs with them. And so I'm inclined to say this is, a fluky thing. Like this wasn't like the year where like they had 3 guys in their starting lineup. The year Coco Crisp, like they brought him back too soon and he blew out his elbow like 2 days later. And I think Luis Alicea, there were like 3 guys in the starting lineup who were all out for the year by like May. That's not the situation here. This is a one guy. It's one very important guy. But in retrospect, I don't think they handled this well. But hopefully they caught this. I mean, he felt it. He did not take the mound again. Like he felt it after a start. They did not push him through that. And I'm hoping that they are just keeping him out for longer than, maybe necessary out of an abundance of caution, because 2026 Royals, 2027, they need Cole Ragans at 100%. This season, they're fortunate that Noah Cameron has really stepped up. They have Michael Lorenzen. They're in a situation where another injury could really sink their rotation. But right now, there's no reason to rush him back. He needs to get healthy.
If they hit the way they hit last year, the rest of the way, is this pitching staff good enough to get them to the postseason without Cole Ragans?
If they hit the way they hit, if they have the 6th best offense in terms of runs scored from now till the end of the season, it's going to be very close. But I think they'll be in it until the final week. They may fall a game or 2 short and will rue the day. But I think you have to go for it in that situation because again, 3 games out. Like you give me the offense, their pitching staff, even without Cole Ragans, has still been really, really good this year. I mean, he's out now, but like I said, his ERA before he got hurt was above 5. He was like the worst starter they had, and so you can't say that necessarily they're going to pitch worse than they have now that he's out. And yet they have the 3rd fewest runs allowed in the American League. So sixth best offense, 3rd best pitching staff. Yeah, I think they can overcome a 3-game deficit.
The problem was you were counting on a regression back to the norm on Bubic and Cameron, but you were also counting on a regression back to the norm of Cole Ragans, which would make up for it. Now you can't count on that.
Right.
So it gets really tough. I'm not saying they throw in the towel, but I put out there the date July 10th. And July 10th, that gives you 3 weeks till the deadline. You take stock and what you got, and it's time to rock and roll.
Right. That's basically the All-Star break. Like, yes, like I think that's the perfect time for them to decide if they can't get this offense pointed in the right direction between now and then. If they continue to fall, if they're 5 games out of a playoff spot at that point, I mean, like you said, there are basically 6 terrible teams, and everybody else is sort of in it, which means it's very much a seller's market at the deadline. So to the extent the Royals do have tradable commodities, there is going to be a market for it, right? It will be a difficult decision, like I said, for PR reasons as well as baseball reasons. But if I'd much rather they pick a lane than just hope that the hitting will come around, because I just don't think there's too many guys not hitting to hope that, you're not asking 1 or 2 guys to figure it out. They really need like 4 different guys. Like Vinny has come around at the same time that Bobby Witt has had the worst slump of his career. So those things have kind of evened out. Miguel Garcia has maintained what he has done. He has been a pleasant surprise start to finish. That basically exhausts the list of guys I'm excited about. We're going to talk about one bright spot on the offense.
What is it?
Maybe Nick Lofton. such a small sample size. Literally, today's 0 for 4 really dampens the impact of this segment. But he's still slugging. Like he's hitting 244. His on base is 286. Keep in mind, after like leading the minor leagues in walks when he was called up, right? He's got, I think, 3 walks in about 48, 49 plate appearances now. Like you get to the major leagues and the walk rate just disappears. But he's slugging 467. His exit velocity, which last year was very poor, 83.6 miles an hour, the average exit velocity, he just didn't hit the ball with enough thump, is up to 88.9. He has barreled some balls this year. That, to me, that level of thump, he's still a little bit below average in that regard, but he's close to average. You can make that work with good plate discipline. The problem was last year, he swung a limp bat, and it doesn't matter how patient you are in the minor leagues. Major league pitchers, if they don't fear your power, they will throw strikes until you force them not to. But the 2025 iteration of the Lofton, I think, is showing enough, thump and power at the plate that he can make pitchers respect that, or they'll pay for it. So I think he needs to play more. I think they are starting to play him more. Jonathan India being out, a few days here, he's been pinch hitting, but like that's given them the opportunity to play him at second base. He's done that, and he's a pretty decent second baseman. But when he hasn't played second base, he's been playing some left field. So again, I think that Matt Quintero is pushing every button he's got. He's trying to play the hot hand. Nick Lofton right now is a little bit hot. He's young. He's had some promise for a while. I think that he needs to be in the lineup pretty much every day for the next, like you said, next 3 weeks or so. And let's find out what we got with him.
Yeah, I would agree. And, because you've tried everything else and it's not working. What was it going to hurt? But I mean, look, you put Maikel Garcia, you mentioned it. Nick Lofton goes in there 0 for 4. Maikel Garcia in the leadoff 0 for 3. Like it seems like that there was a little bit of, they were the charmed princes last year, and they're paying for it this year. Yeah. Like everything seemed to kind of work, and this is going to be one of those years where it doesn't. Maybe they can turn it around and get it and going in the right direction. Any thoughts on Jack Caglianone, where we sit right now?
Look, not coming in today, he was hitting 213, slugging 255. His expected batting average based on the balls he's hit was 331, and his slug was 527. I'm as frustrated as everyone that the results do not bear out with the quality of contact he's making, and I am worried that this will end with him adopting bad habits because the results are not there. But given the alternatives, I don't know what else the Royals can do other than continue to play him pretty much every day. Yes, spot him at DH, maybe let him play first base once in a while, but mostly in right field. I remain deeply impressed with what I'm seeing in terms of his ability to make contact, even with 2 strikes. He's starting to work deeper into counts, and some of the best balls he hit this week came on hitters counts, 2-0, 3-1. He got the green light 3-0 twice and made 2 outs. And the issue I had there was a game, I think it was against the Yankees, where he had the second and third in the 7th inning. You got to 3-0 and was given the green light. And in that situation where I think the Royals might have been down a run or down 2 runs, like a single changes the game there. I don't hate the idea of giving him a green light, but a green light, this is not traffic school. Green light doesn't mean you must go. A green light means you may go. But especially for a young hitter, he needs to understand green light means if it's a cookie down the middle, swing. Otherwise, it's okay. You can take the pitch. And the problem was, it was a really good 3-0 pitch because it was right on the black. It was low and inside corner. He swung, he topped it, he grounded it out, rally over, game basically over. And you could argue he's not a mature enough, disciplined enough hitter to be given the green light on 3-0. He's going to have to learn. I'd rather him not learn the hard way. But the point is, the swing decisions are still not perfect, but he is at least showing some ability. He took his first walk of his major league career this week. So I remain optimistic long term. I'm just frustrated like everyone else, because if he had come out the gate, with better outcomes, just better luck, the whole narrative of the season right now might be different if they'd won even 2 extra games since he got called up because he'd come through with like big hits in key situations.
Doesn't completely look lost. He's in the fight.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth staying the course, right?
Yeah,
I did not like the game against the Yankees where he just took 95 right down the heart. And
to end the game, that's the other one, right? Where it's it's in his head.
That's where I said, okay, we're at least paying attention, like what's going on, because that's got to be the one he smacks, and
you could see it as soon as he took it and the game was over. But like he was, and again, sometimes the only way to learn is to experience, right? To experience that kind of failure. I worry though that he's had it in his head now. You're swinging at too many pitches, et cetera, et cetera. And in that situation, sometimes you see Salvador Perez, and he's made the decision to swing at the pitch before the ball's left the pitcher's hand, and you almost wonder there if Caglianone had it in his head that I'm going to take this pitch, no matter what, and he got burned. So, but I think long term, like the skills are absolutely there. Like I'm very impressed with the skill set. It's just, we just have to hope that the results eventually follow.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's talk about if there's any lever left to pull. The Giants made the deal for Rafael Devers. They could have used a third. Rose could have used a third baseman, but put Michael Garcia at second base. India DH. It's a lot of money to take on.
Right? I mean, it's like if this is when being the Royals, you do become aware of your limitations. This is such a big trade and kind of came out of the blue this afternoon. I mean, very much out of the blue.
It did not. Let me disagree with that. I don't know. Listen, I asked people in Boston, and they said they weren't going to trade him, and I'm like, he's openly running up against the organization. This is not out of the blue.
It's not out of the blue in the sense of if you would told me a star is going to be traded today, yeah, probably Rafael Devers would have been on the top of the list. But that happened like literally. I think the Red Sox were getting on the team plane after like sweeping the Yankees, and like
I don't want to bog down on this, but if you go straight up against the organization, which he has done multiple times this year, right, you are on the block, and you can be had. Yeah. And the question is, do you want to bring that much money into Kansas City and with that attitude? And I think it was a very easy. If they were giving him away for nothing, and that's not what happened. The Giants gave away last year's first round pick. So would you have given up? Who would have been?
Not Caglianone. I would
give up Blake Mitchell.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, to me, giving up Blake Mitchell is not the issue. It's the $250 million.
Oh, right, and all the money.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. If you just give up a couple of names nobody's heard of that aren't going to do anything, so they can save face and claim they got some guys, and take on all the money, okay. But to take on the money and give all the prospects, they're just not in a position to do that. That's not a lever they could have pulled. That's my opinion. Do you agree?
And no, I completely agree. This one's like even as little talent as the Red Sox got in the sense, yes, they did get the first round pick last year. They got 2 pitchers in the Giants rotation who I'm not sure have real value in the sense that I think Jordan Hicks has an ERA of like over 6 right now, and they're on. I think he's like on a 4-year, $44 million contract. Like it's not small money. It's not Rafael Devers money, but it's not small money. So I'm not sure those guys had value. It's basically the most valuable thing the Red Sox got in this trade was to get out from under Rafael Devers' contract. But that's not a small thing because it's $250 million roughly he's owed over the next like 8 years for a guy. And this, it's easy to make the Mookie Betts comparison. And yes, they've once again traded a superstar player in the late 20s. But the thing about Mookie Betts was he was the kind of player that you should have known would age very gracefully because he was an incredible athlete, could play multiple positions, tremendous defensive value. Whereas Devers, the reason why they've had this fight with the Red Sox in the first place this year was over his willingness to change positions. And as badly as the Red Sox handled it, and they handled it very badly, it came from a wise place, which is Rafael Devers is a bad defensive third baseman. And at 28, he wasn't going to get better. And he was much more likely to help a team at DH or first base. And if he's that kind of defensive player today, he has to rake the rest of that contract or he's going to be a liability when he's 33, 34, 30, the last 3 to 4 years of that contract. I mean, even somebody as great as Miguel Cabrera was an absolute albatross at the end in terms of his contract. If Rafael Devers is the new David Ortiz, and he might be, then this is a great trade for the Giants. If he's not, right? If he's not, then they may regret this trade.
In the what was that report? The
Mitchell report.
Yeah, he wasn't named in the Mitchell report. David Ortiz was. Let me reverse engineer the great aging of David Ortiz. He was in the Mitchell report. Okay, I know nobody likes Barry Bonds because he was an ass. So everybody villainizes Barry Bonds. Everybody villainizes A-Rod because he was an ass and he was in the Mitchell report. And everybody just looks the other way on David Ortiz, but he was in there as well.
He was.
I
don't particularly care like all three of them, so I handle it. My opinion is unchanged on all three of them, really. But the bigger point is, I don't think Devers is going to age that well, and so that's why, as a Royals fan, I'm not particularly upset they didn't make this move or the equivalent of it. The problem, though, is that when we talk about a lever to pull, that's basically the kind of lever they would need to pull to really make a dent on this season, which is to absorb a ton of money in order to get a massive impact bat into their lineup. In terms of because what other levers are left? Could you call up Cam Devaney? Sure, you might catch lightning in a bottle. At this point, I'd rather just see Nick Lofton. Let's see what happens with him for a few weeks. Could you trade for, I don't know, Taylor Ward? Yes, you could. Is that going to fix this offense single-handedly? I don't think it will. Right now, unfortunately, Royals they've made their bed. It's time to sleep in it. The only lever left to pull is, do you essentially send a message by firing the hitting coach or reassigning him or whatever? And so there's the two objections I would have to it. One is I'm not sure it will make a difference in terms of the quality of hitting instruction. The counter argument is it probably won't hurt, almost certainly. And this isn't about trying to get the hitters better instruction. It's about sending a message that the results are inadequate and just kind of bringing in a new voice, almost resetting things. The second concern I would have is whatever you do today, regression to the mean suggests the Royals offense is likely to be better from this point until the end of the year than it has been, just by pure dumb luck. Like we just said, they're hitting much worse with runners in scoring position than they are overall. If their luck just evens out, they might not hit any better and yet still score more runs per game. And my concern is, and the reason why bad teams, including the Royals in the distant past, would make midseason like manager changes and never get off the cycle of failure, is that you make a change midseason, the team improves because it's a dead cat bounce, because it's just regression. The team attributes it to the new guy. The new guy gets a long-term contract when he's actually not any better than the guy he replaced. So the biggest concern I would have with replacing Alex Zumwalt right now is if you replace him with somebody in the organization and the hitters actually start playing better, that they inaccurately attribute that success the rest of the season to the new guy, when the reality is the problem with hitting in this organization goes beyond the hitting coach. It is an organizational philosophy. Just that is the foundation of it is broken. Just like their foundation of teaching pitching was broken when J.J. Picollo was hired. And one of the smartest things he's done as general manager was not just like promote people, fire the old people, but bring in people from outside the organization who have been with other organizations with a history of success. Brian Sweeney from the Guardians, Quintero from the Rays, Zach Bove, even with the Twins, right? All these guys, it's not just like Alex Zumwalt, Drew Saylor, all these guys brought new ideas into the organization when they came aboard, but they didn't have a ton of experience working in other winning organizations. And I feel like that's what they need. Kevin Seitzer would be amazing if they could figure out a way to bring him back this winter. But if not him, somebody from an organization that has adopted, because hitting philosophy and the strategy of hitting has evolved over the last 5 to 10 years throughout the sport, probably 2 or 3 times faster than it had in the decade before that. Like just we see the pitching side because we can see the metrics that we see from StatCast about like pitch metrics, velocity going up, movement on pitches, etc. only this year did we get stuff like, bat speed is finally becoming available to the public. But like internally, teams have had this kind of data for a while, and you can suss out which teams are really changing the way they teach hitting. And a lot of it comes down to 6 words: pull the ball in the air. It's such a simple thing to say, but when you think about all these truisms in baseball that have been proven completely like false in the last 20 years, think about, it wasn't that long ago that you would hear that the philosophy of pitching is to pitch to contact. Do you remember that pile of crap? Pitch to contact. The Royals were big proponents of pitch to contact. Yet, you want to be efficient. And what's happened is that pitchers are as inefficient as they've ever been, which is why you have to have 13 of them on every roster. And it sucks for the sport, but it's great for the teams because you can pitch to lack of contact, strike out a bunch of guys, and win. And ultimately, the job of the team is to win. On offense, I feel like one of the truisms that is being proven false is this idea of hit the ball up the middle, right? Hit the ball up the middle. We're not trying to hit a home run. Don't try to hit a home run. Hit the ball up the middle. Well, here's the problem with hitting the ball up the middle. Center field is 400 feet away, the wall. Down the lines, it's about 330. So when Jack Caglianone hits a ball 110 miles an hour and he hits it 390 feet, and he did it a couple times the last couple of days, it's a routine fly ball to the center fielder because he hit them up the middle. That same ball, if he had pulled, would have been a home run. So this is just an example, right? I'm just giving you this point that like there are teams, you can see it in the results. The Yankees, obviously, you can see what they're doing with their offense. The Dodgers are at the top of everybody's list, but there are other organizations that have made a concerted effort to getting away from this kind of up the middle philosophy and pulling the ball in the air. The one problem I have with Jack Caglianone right now, he's still hitting too many balls on the ground. His average launch angle coming into today was 2 degrees. That needs to be more like 15. Hit the ball in the air and pull it.
How about that? Reaction.
Kauffman Stadium it's an issue, but here's what I would say to that. The Royals have hit something like 30% of their home runs this year have been at home. But their pitchers have allowed 45% of the home runs they've allowed have been at home. In other words, other teams are hitting the ball out of the park at Kauffman Stadium. Not as much as on the road, but close. The Royals are not.
Let me state Jesse Newell, who handles the Chiefs beat for the Kansas City Star, but will fill in at times on the Royals beat, and is certainly a bright young writer and follows the numbers. Gave this stat: 12 hitters. And there are 12 hitters who have 2 home runs in Kauffman Stadium. 4 of them are Royals.
Yep, exactly. I mean, the A's hit 6 home runs this weekend at Kauffman Stadium.
Yeah.
The Royals hit none.
Yeah, that's the stat I put up.
And again, I think if you hit but here's a part of it. Kauffman Stadium is a tough place to hit home runs, but I think it's particularly tough if you hit it up the middle. Down the lines, it's actually not that hard to hit a home run, but the gaps are far, right? So
I think Jack Caglianone shows that Bridges will draft a different type of guy. And I think the thing that maybe nobody wants to hear is you've got a ball club, save Jack Caglianone and whoever was in this last draft class, that the mindset was spray the ball to all fields, hit the ball in the gaps. Like I think, and I think reality is you want a bunch of guys who can hit the ball hard and as many who can pull it in the air as you can. Yes, agreed. Absolutely. They have to look for more than that. I agree with every word you said. If that is the Royals' new philosophy, you're not going to feel the impact for 5 years. They're not all going to come up in 79 minor league games like Jack Caglianone.
Sure.
But so I agree with you. And I definitely think that there is a hitting philosophy to be had there. And more can be gotten from guys. Like but somebody's got to, it was said to me when I brought up MJ Melendez that there was like a defense for Alex Zumwalt. It's like, well, really all the guys hitting strokes are now. And I can tell you that I can just hear somebody in the Royals organization feeding this to someone who then fed it to me. Well, everybody's got their own hitting coach really with their agent and whatever baseball factory they work out at in the off season really the hitting coach is just about swing decisions. No.
Well,
No, like on MJ Melendez. When I brought up MJ Melendez, it was like, you can't blame him on Zumwalt. Like, you can. You really can.
We gave Zumwalt all the credit when he was hitting 40 home runs in the minor leagues. So let's keep that in mind.
And I do understand that the dynamics have changed and everybody does kind of have their own personal hitting coach, but you do work with them for 6 months. And if you can't look and see the different issues that there were in MJ Melendez's swing and you can't convince him to start fixing it long before he failed for 2 years in the big leagues, you're not the guy to reach anybody.
Let's turn that around. You want to say it's about swing decisions? Okay, fine. Let's make it swing decisions.
Their swing decisions suck.
The Royals are dead last in the American League in walks drawn again. Yes, they're probably worse in home runs because they're last by more. But like you say, yes, and you're right. It might take years to develop power hitters. But on base is something you can teach, right? And some of these guys have shown plate discipline in the minor leagues. Why has Vinny Pasquantino gone from a guy who was walking 12% of the time when he got to the major leagues to a guy who's walking like half as often today?
Yeah.
Right? Like, they're last. Nick Lofton was, again, most patient in the minor leagues. 3 walks and 50 plate appearances. Like, if you can't, and it's not all about, well, if you don't have power, you can't get on base. Yeah, there are a lot of guys in the major leagues who don't hit for a ton of power, but still draw walks because they can foul off pitches. Sometimes that's the other thing is sometimes the best thing you can do is teach a player, don't try to put the ball play, try to foul it off. If it's a tough pitch, you're better off fouling it off than making contact that's likely to turn into an out. And hopefully you'll get on base. Nolan Shanuel, the first baseman for the Angels, who was in the major leagues like 2 months after he was drafted in 2023, has no power as a first baseman, but he's got like a 370 OBP because he takes pitches, he draws walks. Where's that guy on the Royals? We wanted Jonathan India to be that guy, and he sort of is that guy when he's out there. Like they understand the need for
to maximize.
Right. They understood the need for. Like I can't blame JJ Picollo for going out and making the one big trade he made this offseason was to get that dude, but that dude's not getting on base as much as he was in Cincinnati, and neither is anybody else getting on base much. So. Yes, the one thing I will say in defense of Alex Zumwalt, it's not just Alex Zumwalt. Like this is the organization, but JJ had to go outside the organization and hire people, and to solve the pitching issue. And it's one of the most dramatic turnarounds any franchise has made in the last couple of years. Is what the Royals have done with their pitching. Yeah. They have to do that on the hitting side, and they can't do it by just. So again, if you want to let Zumwalt go now and bring somebody in just to try it for 3 months. I think that's fine. Maybe you can get coax George Brett out of retirement for 3 more months. He couldn't make it. He only lasted 2 months when he did it in 2013, and he was 60 years old then. He's 72 now. So I'm not counting on George Brett. But you almost want an interim guy who knows you're not getting the full-time job. Just give them good vibes for 3 months. But then this winter, you have to go out and do for the hitting side what you did for the pitching side 3 winters ago.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I'm fine if Alex Zumwalt rides it all the way to the end because I don't have a name I'd go get.
Yeah.
The name was there.
Certainly mid-season, you can't.
The name was there. I mean, it was Kevin Seitzer. I mean, listen, we don't bring it up every single week, but it's at some point I'll get the details as to why he wasn't hired. It makes no sense to me.
Well, they're paying the price now, and that's the sad thing because that could be the difference between the playoffs and what we're seeing right now.
Absolutely. Listen, if you need help with your insurance, David Starnes, Allstate Insurance has got you covered. They help me out. They can help you out. Call 816-781-7331. Stop into one of their offices in KC, Liberty, Branson. You can go see him today. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Talk about paying the price. If your lot is faded, you don't have the stripes marked appropriately, you can have accidents, liability, taking you away from your business. Free consultations, no commissions, and in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warranty. It's Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot, whatever you need done. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. And if you've been hurt in an accident, Northland Injury Law has you covered. They're Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years. Voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers. Text HURT to 22222 if you've got a case, or call 816-400-HURT. For the good Dr. Rany Jazayerli, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kauffman Corner Podcast.